question one.
Question one, with Keegan out a month or two, what should the Kings over-under on wins be for the first 20 games?
Well, before I give my answer, I asked this in anticipation of this segment. I asked this of many of y'all that follow on Twitter. And what I did is I actually posted the first 20 games in the schedule. No, excuse me, the first 17. And here's some of the answers we got. I don't see one winnable game. 2-0 start, then 15-game losing streak. 1-14, plus or minus 3. Maybe 4 wins. 2 wins. Hey, 10-7. 3-15. That's not the right math. The Utah game is our playoffs. Otherwise, it's 0-17. I would say this. Again, with the caveat of this is the understanding that no crazy injuries are going to happen between now and those games on somebody on another team. Nobody else is getting injured on this team, and no moves are made in between now and then. Those are the things you cannot account for. So as it is right now, your first 17 games, ladies and gentlemen. Well, Kyle, let me just run through it with you because I want to show my work. Very simple. I'm going to give you the game. You tell me win or loss. That's it, okay? We're going to lightning round this, all right? Opening at Phoenix.
I'll go win.
Okay. Home Utah.
Win.
Home Lakers.
Lose.
At OKC.
Lose.
At Chicago.
Win.
At Milwaukee.
Lose.
At Denver.
Lose.
Home Golden State.
Lose.
Home OKC.
Lose.
Home Minnesota.
Lose.
Home Denver.
Lose.
Home Hawks.
I'll throw him a bone. I'll say win.
At Minnesota.
Lose.
At San Antonio.
Win.
At OKC.
Lose.
At Memphis.
I'll say win.
At Denver.
Lose.
Okay, so you have them one game better than I do, and I think we can both admit you threw them a couple of bones.
Yes, the Hawks one's going to be tough.
I have them at 5-12 through the first 17. You have them at 6-11. If you followed along at home, who knows what you've got, but I would imagine it's somewhere in that neighborhood. Now, I will tell you one thing I know for a fact. There's at least going to be 1 or 2 of those losses that are going to be wins, and there's going to be at least one of those wins that's going to end up being a loss. That's just how it works. But I think when it's all said and done, that first 20 games is going to be rough.
So back when I thought I would be doing the show with Alan today, I did some research based on your 5-12 hypothesis.
Uh-huh.
So in order for them to get to 48 wins,
yes,
after starting 5-12.
By the way, why is that just an arbitrary number? 48 wins.
48 was the 8 seed last year in the West.
I gotcha. Okay, so that's why we chose it.
So 48 was Memphis in the West. In order to get to 48 wins, they would have to go 43-22 the rest of the season. Just for reference, these were the only teams that went 43-22 the last 65 games last year. Thunder, Cavs, Celtics, Pacers, end of list.
So here's where, well, you know what? Let's move on because this will tie into question number 2.
Question 2.
Okay, so is it that bad? What?
I don't think they can hear you. Lower that music, would you?
Let's see. Okay, so it's that bad. What, if any, do you expect? I'm sorry. What were you trying to say? So
okay, no, that's not your fault. I wrote it weird. Okay, so if it's that bad.
Okay, that's what I thought. It says it's.
Yes, it's it, like the ice cream sandwich.
I tried to power through, and even I.
No, good point.
Okay, so if it's that bad, what, if any, do you expect the fallout to be?
So
wow.
Here's what the fallout should be. I want to be really clear about this. And I want to do it ahead of time. Here's where the Kings are almost in a comically bad situation. If they were a normal franchise, somewhat normal franchise, this is what, based on what you laid out, which is accurate, if they were to be in the 5-12, 4-13, 6-11 range. Now, look, let me be clear. if they were to go through the stretch and somehow be 12-5, 11-6, hell, if they were somehow going to be 8-9, I would say, okay, this would change this whole parameter. What I'm about to say is based solely on the thought, and we just went over the schedule, that they will likely be somewhere in the neighborhood of 5-12, give or take a game after their first 17. If they were a normal franchise, you could actually arguably look at this Keegan Murray injury and say, if there is a bright side to it, and it's tough to bright side anyone being injured, much less Keegan, but if there was a bright side, it would be that this will send a message to the organization if anybody left that was on the fence. It would send a clear message that, you're not competing this season. And you can either try to do all this crazy short-term stuff to squeeze out a play-in or a first-round exit, which is what we thought the ceiling was anyways, or you can just accept that you're not going to be, as we said last Friday, almost certainly, like this year, and we haven't even started it yet, so I get why people are frustrated. This year's a throwaway year. Sorry, it is. And we're going to stay consistent with that. It's this year, there's no hope. I'll say it again, there is zero hope this season. Any hope you claim to have, and it's fine if you do, you're absolutely fooling yourself. There's no hope of any relevant competition this year. The best you can hope for is a play-in or a first-round exit. That's it. If that's what you're hoping, you may get that. Odds are you're missing the whole slew of everything. So that would be the signal that we've been hoping, many of us, because we don't speak as one unit, that we've been hoping the franchise would get and go, okay, well, then we need to operate that way, which means that all of our focus needs to be on trying to move DeMar DeRozan, Zach LaVine, and I understand being on the fence on this one, but perhaps even Domantas Sabonis, in an effort to clear everything out, get our youth in there, reset with players that are on our timeline. I'm not talking about tank. I don't think they're going to need to tank. I think that they're already going to be bad. But to put themselves in a financial position to start gathering youngs and picks and try to Detroit, San Antonio, Houston, OKC, whatever their way back into contention in a couple of years. Because when we looked at the salary tables on Friday, we pointed out that they don't have any breathing room as it stands right now, any significant breathing room for another 2 years. And you might say, well, what good is that going to do? We don't draft well. What good is that going to do? The draft isn't a guarantee. You're right. I don't have a good response for that because there isn't a truthfully good response. What I can tell you is that a 10, 20, 30%, whatever percentage you want to put on us hitting in the draft with even a career NBA player that's going to have a 10-year career, much less be an all-star or a superstar, those odds are far, far, far better than this team competing for a title at any point. There's absolutely no chance. And yes, it sucks because you would think, well, we should have started this earlier, or the De'Aaron Fox trade should have kicked this whole thing off. Yes, you're right about all of that. You're 100% correct. But if you don't start now, you're going to be saying in 2 years, we should have started 2 years ago. And Keegan Murray being out, Keegan is arguably, now Jason and I wouldn't say we disagree. We're both on the fence here. You could make a great argument that Keegan Murray is actually even more important than Sabonis when it comes to who can you least stand to lose. Sabonis is a better player. He's a better player, full stop, all around right now. But Keegan Murray is our best two-way player. He's arguably our best. Well, Keon is, but he's our best all-around defender. In other words, Keegan can defend more positions than Keon Ellis. But and this has been a problem since I sat with Monty McNair at training camp last year, And you guys, some of you will remember us sitting face-to-face and me asking Monty, because who the hell was it, Jordan McLaughlin or whatever we were coming to the year with, whatever his name is. What are we doing at the 4? We have nothing legit at the 4. We have a problem at the 4. Here we are 2 years later. Well, okay, to be fair, a year later. And a De'Aaron Fox trade later and a draft later, and we have no more depth. We're so poor at power forward that we've been playing poor Keegan Murray out of position and putting him at the 4. And before that, it was Harrison Barnes, who is also not a power forward. But he's more of a power forward than Keegan is. As it stands right now, if you just move everybody down, you would have Keon Ellis moving into the starting lineup, and then you would have Zach LaVine at the 3 and DeMar DeRozan at the 4. To be clear, DeMar DeRozan is 6'6", 220. Zach LaVine is 6'5", 200. And obviously, Keon Ellis and Dennis Schroeder aren't doing it.
Also, I'm a nerd, so the nerd stats say like Zach LaVine was like one of the worst defenders in the NBA last year.
Because he is.
But like, you don't understand people. He was like really bad.
And now you're asking him to defend threes, which is probably the most difficult of all 5 positions. It has the most talent at that position, the 2 and the 3.
Guard Kevin Durant.
Yeah, good luck. Personally, I'm not saying, hey, look, there is no good answer here. But before you, and by the way, I don't know if the Kings are going to do this. I'm just looking at what could happen. Before I did any of that, I would either I'd move Darius Saric at the 4 and give that a shot. At least Saric is 6'10". See what he's got left. I'd take a look at Isaac Jones. Again, these are not great options. Then I'd also take a chance or take a look at playing Sabonis and Reynaud together, which I know they're taking a look at that right now. There have been some things in practice where they're both on the floor at the same time. Again, none of these are great options.
Unless Maxime is going to end up being the next insert your tall man here.
Sure.
Daniel Gafford.
Sure. And that's a lot to put on a rookie, but hell, I'd take it. I would so much rather have them starting both Nick Clifford and Max Reynaud and Keon Ellis, and I just don't even care. Like, I do not care. If in my perfect world, I would probably here's my perfect imperfect lineup for the Sacramento Kings this year. I would put either Keon Ellis or Malik Monk or Devin Carter at the 1. Let's say Devin Carter at the 1, okay? Then I'd probably put Keon at the 2. I'd put Reynaud at forward, Sabonis at center, and Nick at the 3. Let's have fun.
Just see what happens.
It's going to be a bad team. But I want to see what Reynaud does with 30 minutes a night. I want to see what Clifford does with 30 minutes a night. I want to know what the hell Devin Carter is finally. He hasn't even played a full year. I want to give Keon Ellis a chance to shine. And then, obviously, when Keegan Murray comes back, plug him in for whatever the weak spot is. You can move whatever around and play Keegan and build around him and make him the number 1 option. But I said earlier this is if the Kings are a normal team or have somewhat. They are in such ridiculously terrible shape because even if they got the clear message, to that, guys, we gotta reboot here. This ain't working. This ain't working. Even if they decided to go with that, okay. Well, now what? It's not that easy because there's a thing called salary, and there's the problem with trades is you need 2 to tango. Now, Zach LaVine makes $46 $7.5 million this year, which jumps up to $50 million next year on a player option, which he will absolutely take.
Can we cross our fingers? Maybe?
Hey, go ahead.
Maybe not?
If I'm Zach LaVine, the only way I see him not taking that is if somebody steps up and maybe gives him like a 5-year, $180 million, $200 million deal where they'll pay him 35 or 40 a year. They'll extend it. They'll just, that's better than paying. He ain't getting $50 million a year somewhere else.
I think the only way I see him declining it is if Aspiration steps up and pays him $25 million under the table.
For real. So if you're saying, well, of course we should move these guys so that you can play the youth, okay, who are you trading Zach LaVine to? Who's as I said last week, at this point, no disrespect to Zach. This is never any disrespect to him or his game. He's a really unbelievably talented offensive player. He really, truly is. And he seems like a good dude. This is just all about salary and at what point of the journey the Kings are on. But there is one team in the NBA dumb enough to trade for Zach LaVine. And they did it last year for De'Aaron Fox. There's literally the Bull. You have to remember the Bulls before they traded Zach LaVine were calling teams and offering sweeteners. Like, we'll attach a first-round pick if you take him. When I said last week I would trade Zach LaVine for a second-round pick, I wasn't joking. Like a conditional 2031 second-round pick, highly protected. A 2031 conditional second-round pick, protected 29-1. I would trade Zach LaVine for that right now because it gets him off the books. There is no way on God's green earth, unless Scott Perry is the second coming of Jeff Petrie and Sam Presti and Red Auerbach combined, that you're getting basketball for basketball talent back for Zach LaVine. It's just no chance, dude. You're probably going to have to give up some draft capital. You're probably going to have to take on some other cap filler that hopefully expires before. So you're unless massive injuries happen, or maybe a team, and I don't wish injuries on anyone, but I don't know, maybe a team like the Celtics is like, yeah, we're not getting Tatum back, we need something here. Or a team like Indiana is like, we need score. The Lakers, something like that. You're probably stuck with Zach LaVine for the season unless you get lucky. DeMar DeRozan is infinitely more tradable than Zach LaVine for two reasons. One, he's making just under $25 million this year. Secondly, next year's contract is partially guaranteed. So you're effectively trading and expiring sort of DeMar DeRozan, who's still in the right system with the right team in the right place, can be very helpful. He still has 20-plus points a game to give, and he's a consummate teammate, good locker room guy. So, yeah, you probably can trade him. And the other one would be Sabonis. And I think, honestly, I love Domantas Sabonis. I defend him all the time. There was this big, one of them stupid poll questions online last weekend. Who would you take for next year alone, Şengün or Sabonis? And for me, the answer is it's Sabonis for next year. If it goes beyond that, I'll probably take Şengün. But Sabonis has him in almost every single category, period, end of statement. Efficiency, box plus minus, value over replacement player, everything, pretty much. I think Şengün has 0.8 blocks to Sabonis' 0.4, and that's about it. But I truly don't know what Sabonis' trade value is. I got to think it's something. It's not going to be a Tyrese Halliburton type of thing. And I don't think you can use Sabonis to trade LaVine unless it's a three-way deal. But if that's what it takes, that's what it takes. If you told me, let me put it a different way. If you told me the only way to get rid of, to be able to trade LaVine and DeRozan would be to trade Sabonis and you get all three, I'd do that in a heartbeat. For where this team needs to go, I'd do that in a heartbeat. An absolute heartbeat. Even
if you're not getting a long-term piece in return. Sabonis' value goes down because you're attaching the other players.
100,000%, and I'll explain why. I know that's tough to take on the surface, but this is the new NBA. This is the way it works. By trading all three of them, you're knocking $120 million off your payroll next year. $120 million of a $161 million payroll. By the way, that 161 is before you extend Keon Ellis and before you extend Keegan Murray, who I think becomes extension eligible today, maybe tomorrow. So take that 161 and really make it 200. You're still knocking 120 off of that with three guys that are not getting you to the playoffs. In addition to that, because, Kyle, this is how it actually works. It's not tanking, it's rebuilding. In addition to that, getting rid of that 120, which would allow you to do a number of things. It would allow you to trade for distressed stars that teams in the Kings position right now.
Like Brooklyn just did.
It would allow you to take on salary in exchange for draft capital that's expiring. In other words, contending team needs to make a move. They can't because they've got this dead weight. They bring in Sacramento three-way. Sacramento acquires this injured or way overpaid player that's expiring at the end of the year in exchange for a couple of picks. And you're buying effectively these picks.
It's like how the Luka trade technically was a 3-team trade because Danny Ainge was fiending for second-round picks.
You've seen San Antonio. San Antonio has been involved in a couple of our deals, just facilitating. That's how they got our 2031 unprotected pick swap, which I will never, ever forgive them for. Because that was just them facilitating. I think the Barnes trade. That was just them facilitating.
Yeah, that's how they got DeRozan.
Yeah. San Antonio just came in and was like, yeah, we'll take on some of this and some of that. Okay, cool. Oh, cool. Now we have an unprotected 2031 first. In addition to the cap space, in addition to giving yourself the ability to start gathering assets, it is addition by subtraction because now the Maxime Reynaud's, the Nick Cliffords, the Keon Ellis's, the Devin Carters all have room to play. And thirdly, by doing that, you're going to get significantly worse on the floor, short-term pain, long-term gain, which also increases your ability to get a high lottery pick, which increases your chances, though we have definitely bucked that trend, but increases your chances of getting a star in the draft or trading that pick to somebody who knows how to draft for a star. There's so many options you have by doing that. That is what the fallout should be. But, of course, will the Kings try to outsmart themselves? We'll take a break. When we come back, let's talk